Welcome back to the LU Leadership Race Question Time with Lstv. Up now we have the candidates for the Activities Officer position. So first up for their speech, can we have Daniel Brooks, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I love clubs and societies. It's really as simple as that. Having been a home student at Leeds and a president of a society, as well as being an international student at 2 foreign universities, I have first-hand experience of how great clubs and societies are at bringing together people in a common interest, regardless of their different backgrounds. It's for that reason that I want to make it easier for all students to get involved, especially international students, postgrad students, and part-time students. I would do this by making it easier for students to get society membership, both online and in person, and by hosting an alternative Freshers' Fair to encourage postgrads, international and part-time students to get involved with us, to get involved with clubs and societies. I want to make the changes societies want to see in terms of space, funding, the booking system, and greater society promotion. And I want the union to work for you and do as much as it can to improve your future prospects and employability.
Thank you. Next up, Louisa Chan, please.
Hi. My name's Louisa. I'm currently the martial arts rep, so I already look after martial arts and all the societies. What clubs and societies have done for me so far is they helped me feel like I belong in my first year, because I found it really hard to fit in because I wasn't in university hall, so I didn't make a lot of friends. So in return, I really want to help clubs and societies get better. What I want to do is mainly help clubs and societies gain more funding via training to get sponsorship and fundraising. Second point I want to have my manifesto is that I want to improve resources, such as providing more space for societies and clubs to use, and also improving IT support, such as improving the website currently, because I find it really user-friendly. And third of all, I want to provide better communication between you and your facilities. So for sports clubs and martial art clubs, that's the Edge, and then for other people, that's like the ARC, so the room booking system and all that. So give Chan a chance.
Next up, Nathan Jones, please. Joseph, sorry.
Afternoon, everyone. I go on the 3 aliases here: Nathan Josephs, Nate Shemates, and that guy who's laughing in the LUU Leadership Race video. I can say after joining societies, it's actually formed the person who you see here today. And I really want to give back. After talking to a couple of societies, I've noticed that there are a couple of things that people want to see improving, people could want to change. So after collaborating all of them, I came on the 4 points: negotiation, advertisement, transparency, and equality. Oh, this is awkward. Please vote for me. When you ask me questions, I'll come up with better ideas. Sorry about that.
Next up, Tom Mead, please.
Hello, testing. Yeah. There are 3 main things I would do if elected Activities Officer. 1, I'll provide more information about societies for people who might not go to Freshers' Fair or use uni facilities that regularly. I will send all students a quick, easy online questionnaire via email a few times a year, such as before Freshers' Week or at the start of Term 2. It will show them which societies are most suited towards. It'll also be available on the union's website all year round. This will make joining societies easier and make the recruitment process a lot less stressful for committees. My second point, I'm committed to more inclusivity for minority student groups. I've studied full-time and part-time, been an undergrad and a postgrad, and I've been an international student on a year abroad in a university in Spain, so I can empathise with the needs and concerns of many different kinds of students. Recent surveys suggest that postgrads and part-timers often feel left out of union activities. I intend to work hard with the Equality and Diversity Officer to change that. And my final point, I provide more help with juggling studies and activities. Many students feel that they can't properly commit to either the studies or clubs. I hope to work closely with the welfare and education officers to provide good advice on how students can equally get the most of both their studies and activities.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Tom, unfortunately, you've gone over time, but
Right.
thank you
Thanks.
very much. Next up, Ben Moore, please.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Moore. I'm a third-year theatre and performance student, and I would like to be your activities officer because I strongly believe from personal experience that clubs and societies have the potential to greatly enhance and enrich the life and experience for any type of student here at Leeds University. It's for this reason that I want to get involved and be part of such an influential aspect of the Leeds Student Union. There are many ways in which I feel I can help. Through utilising a specific online booking system to avoid double bookings and clashes, which is a common frustration for many societies. Also through further and fairer funding to help keep productivity high and maintain the high standard of these groups. I would also like to ensure that we fully utilise any unused and available spaces to their full potential. Excuse me. And finally, I'd like to focus on the essential employment of union screens and web space to further advertise your societies and clubs. I think you can get more, see more, and be more with me as your activities officer. Thanks for your time.
Next up is Joshua Pewter, please.
He's tall. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pewts. With so many candidates in this year, it's difficult to decide who should be activities officer. It's also difficult for me to get my message across. In men's hockey, I run one of the largest student sports societies in the country. We hold charity events, a strong social atmosphere, and we established one of the first alumni memberships available to graduates. I'm also ambassador for the ESSA programme, encouraging societies to be more sustainable, entrepreneurial, and utilise the assets to be successful. I believe there is nothing more powerful than when students unite in a collective voice. And I want to use that voice. I want to approach the alumni department for more funding. They accept thousands of donations every year, and it never reaches the societies. I want to gain momentum to redevelop the Riley Smith. I'm not saying I'll fix it in 1 year, but I will leave a legacy and a development plan so it will be done. I will help societies develop and utilise their expertise through workshops and making societies more attractive to sponsors, but also making students more attractive to employers. The most important thing is not to pick the person who makes the most promises, but the man who will deliver these promises, a man who is approachable, outgoing, and deeply cares about the success of all societies at LUU. Ladies and gentlemen, I am that person. I'm suited for activities officer.
Next up, Edward Richardson, please.
Hi, my name's Ed Richardson. Bear with me today, I'm losing my voice, unfortunately. And for those of you who don't recognise me, I used to look like that. I had my head shaved for charity a couple of weeks ago, sans lack of hair. My manifesto, I have 5 points, and they're all on these cards, which are currently now placed sporadically around the union and the university campus as a whole. I'm going to hopefully quickly go through them with you before my time runs out. My first one is reducing the cost of the sports pass, currently at £72. My second one is making sure that Wednesday afternoons are free for all and not just for sports. Third is to introduce an interdepartmental sports league through the IMS system. Fourth is using the power of the union to help the clubs and societies secure sponsorship by using what we have to promote your sponsors. And my final point is working with the other exec officers to encourage better health, better living and better understanding within Leeds.
Next up, Ed Elliott, please.
Hi guys, I'm Ed, and chest waxing and innuendo slogans aside, I'm really passionate about making LEU as good as it possibly can be. My manifesto includes points on getting more space, more publicity and more networking for clubs and societies. The final points on my manifesto include points on getting more accessible cash office, fairer funding and improving intramural sports. But ultimately, what makes me stand out from the other candidates is my experience. Over 3 years, I've been involved in 4 charities at a local and national level, including Kenyan Orphan Project, Link Community Development, COP, and homed. Also during this time, I've been involved in sports and music committees, and over the last year, I've been MedSop president, running some of the biggest events on campus. So, all I'm trying to say to you today, guys, is over that time, I've learnt leadership, organisation skills, teamworking skills, which I could bring to the role of activities next year. So vote Ed and vote for an incredible LUU 2012-13.
Next up is Chris Fitzsimmons, please.
Hi, I'm Chris. I study pharmacology and I'm currently the president of the Skydiving Society. I think what sets me aside from the other candidates, other than my accent, which you probably can't understand, is that I want to address all the issues that are associated currently with clubs and societies as a whole, as opposed to implementing individual systems. For example, like the online booking system, which does need to be addressed. Instead of having a separate system for that, I want to have it in one kind of visual representation in like a virtual space online for everything. And this doesn't only affect clubs and societies, it kind of affects everything. I know it was said earlier on in the welfare debate about how we can get a message across and a message to students. I think if we have everything that the union has to offer, and if that's showcased well online and kind of like an interactive experience almost, instead of just a little link that you find 3 months into your uni, like on the side of the portal, where people can go into it, everything's very readily accessible and everything's there and at hand. In this space, room bookings can be sorted. Also, vote Fitz.
Next up, Alec White, please.
I'd like to start by thanking you all for coming, thanking Lstv, and thanking for everyone working on the leadership race. So I've got 1 minute to convince you to vote me for activities officer. What would you say? What would you say if you were stood here in a hand-me-down tux trying to improve societies? Because that's what I want to hear. The only way we can make changes which will benefit all societies will be to gather the widest range of opinions. I think I can lead that change by organising specific committees to tackle points like funding and room bookings to make sure that no society is overlooked. I think I can organise that change by maximising society communication. Better communication won't just make a platform to discuss issues, it will also create a support network where achievements can be celebrated. And I believe that you should make the smart choice and vote for me, because I can make the changes which will continue the fantastic work of societies with full support from the union. Thank you very much.
Now we're going to start the question section of this part of the debate. First up is going to be a question that I've got written down already. All of you, the activities officer represents 11 different categories of groups. From your experience, each one of you will 12, sorry, I've only got what's written down, which Dals has given me. Each one of you will understand some categories better than others. How will you represent those groups you have had least experience dealing with? And I'd like to start with Ben Moore, please.
Hello. The way in which I go about this is getting everyone together and finding time to spend with everyone, the leaders of these societies. Something I have proposed is we've got Freshers' Fair at the start of each year. And something I've thought about is spending time every month to hear back, aside from Freshers' Fair, to hear back from the leaders of these societies, so they've got the time to gather opinions and any questions and issues raised within the societies and the clubs, and then they elect somebody to come back, and I have monthly meetings with these people, and so I can speak to them on a one-to-one basis and write down and collate and gather everything that they have, any issues, any questions, anything they want to try out, and then from there we can process all of that and give it our best shot to make any changes that they see necessary.
Thank you. Next, Louisa Chan.
Hiya. Like I said earlier, that I'm currently the martial arts rep, so I already form the activities exec along with the 11 other reps who represent different departments. So my experience from this year has actually been quite fulfilling in the terms that I have learned quite a lot about the different departments and what their problems and with their societies and clubs are. So I feel like I can help use this knowledge as activities officer to help next year. Also, the current system is that obviously with the reps, you've got the 12 reps to help make decisions with the activities officer, so I don't think there will be a problem at all with knowing what to do with to help all the different societies.
Dan Brooks?
So yeah, my experience is basically on the cultural side of it. I'm the president of Japanese Society this year. It's a cultural society. And I've been really involved with the cultural assembly, so obviously that's what I know the most. What I would do as activities officer to try and get more face time with the societies is to try and deepen the relationship the activities officers has with the current group execs, the activities exec groups with the cultural, dance, etc. And also, I think it would be really nice to get some kind of face time for society presidents with their activities officers, so they can talk to me. Obviously, they can feed through their representatives, but also I think it'd be really nice if they could get some face time with their activities officer to discuss their concerns in person.
Nathan, next, please.
This actually leads to my point, transparency. Quite a few people don't know what other societies do. Since we're representing 12 different groups, by joining society, you know what similar things your groups do. Doing other stuff with different society. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Why not have more intramural events where a cultural society can interact with a dance group? Like we've got for ACS dance, that's cultural and then dance, but what about others? Japanese may want to have a dance group. Once you've done that, actually get more publicity out. Like actually, as activities officer, go to that group, go to their events, publish that event as much as you can, and see where you can develop it.
Thanks. Tom?
Well, my experience has mainly been with general interest in political societies. I would say a good point is to make sure that the work that the reps do is more noticeable and are more societies are aware of them and actually take advantage of them properly. Because like assemblies I belong to, they're very poorly populated. Like so many societies don't seem to care, don't seem to go along. It's important to make sure that more societies are encouraged to attend those and give their feedback, so that I can then in turn get their feedback from my reps, so I know exactly what concerns of all societies are.
Edward Richardson, sorry.
So my primary experience for the past year has been with departmentals. I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about the dance societies. So I'll pick on them, for instance, because I'm sorry, but I know nothing about you guys. I would have, at the start, if I'm elected, I will sit down and have a meeting with the activities exec, who are the 12 students who represent each of those categories, and I will try and get from them what their current concerns are. And then in September, when the new activities exec come in, I will have one-on-one meetings with those areas where I still think that I need to learn about.
So my experience is actually in the developmental and volunteer and community assemblies, and I think straight away I'm just going to say both of those work fantastically, and the systems we've got there are great, and I think the way that it's fed back from ground root levels all the way up to Hannah at Activities Officer is fantastic. I think I'd want to definitely build on that system, make sure we keep that system in place, and if it's not working in other departments, make sure we work out why and increase the people turning up to meetings and make sure it does start working like it does in the two departments I've been working in. At the moment, as MedSup President, I have to work very closely with a lot of things that I may not have understood a year ago, but things like a lot of the sports teams, which I don't all play with, I've had to coordinate a lot of events with them, a lot of things like that, and it's just a case of networking, which is one of my big things on my manifesto, and I really want to push that. Something I do at the moment is a lot of networking between, we've got 20 different clubs and 20 different societies in the med school, and we also work very closely with a lot of other SOCs, and it's just networking, and I'd love to do that, and it's something to be good at. Thank you very much.
Alec?
My experience has been mainly with performance societies, but I think obviously every single society is equally as important as the next. Part of my manifesto is I want to set up an online forum to build on the fantastic work of the assemblies, because quite often assemblies aren't getting the best attendance. If there was an online forum for discussion, it might build on that work. Like I said, I also want to have committees where all societies can be represented. If you turn up, if the societies give themselves to discussions, then they will be part of the solution. And I also would like to take an active involvement with assemblies and make sure that the activities reps all feed back sort of everything to me, and I can be there to make sure that sort of every single issue is just as important as the next. Thank you.
Joshua, do you want to come to this?
Hi. Well, my background's mainly sports societies, but that's not to say that we don't get involved with other societies. We have a lot of members from different on different courses. But basically, one of the main things is, the activities officer is available if you want to speak to her at the start of the year. I had a couple of issues, and I went straight to Hannah, and she sorted a lot of them out. So they are available. The second thing is the relationship between the activities officer and the activities reps. Now, they have a fantastic relationship, and I think that needs to then feed down to the next level. So the activity reps then need to then work with sort of 3 or 4 club captains each time to then get their views forward that can go through forward to the activities officer. One of the fantastic things who Greg, the sports rep, has done is he's used social media to the absolute maximum. He set up a group which club captains are all involved with, and anything that if we have an issue, any things that we want to promote one of the main things really is to utilise what we have and to just communicate a lot more between the activities officer, the reps, and the club captains and presidents of societies.
Chris?
I actually really like this question. It kind of really applies to my manifesto. I'm majorly involved in a lot of the outdoor sports societies, and that's kind of what I've based my kind of life around uni in as far as clubs and etc. goes. But especially with smaller societies, I think they lose out on promoting as much. I mean, what was the statistic this year? It was 33% of people said that halfway through the year they thought it was too late to join a society or things like that. I think with having activities reps is how obviously we would break down and feed back to individual things. But I think a meeting once a month or every 2 months isn't quite enough to get the voice of a smaller society heard and expressed if they're wishing to make progress. So the idea of having this online portal, and I don't want to go on about it too much, but is so that as a committee, at your induction, you get a login password, you sit down, it's very simple, you have this space, you can submit everything to it, you get instant feedback from it. It's not like sending an email or a spreadsheet for your budget every so on and so forth. I was talking to Amnesty quite recently, and I think issues with societies like Amnesty and other societies are based a lot around campaigning is having their voice heard in the union. And I think having a space that is open and readily accessible to everyone, I think is vital, especially with those kind of things. And I haven't really known a lot about those kind of guys until this year. And I think not only to have this kind of virtual space online, but to have it expressed kind of visually in the union that kind of showcases that, I think is what is needed, especially for smaller societies. And also another thing I want to work with to help, which is going to help everyone, is the idea of sponsorship. Because I think the best example of... Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I've been told to cut you down, but next question has come through on Twitter is how would you act when elected activity members in groups such as the president, treasurer or secretary aren't turning up to the events and not necessarily fulfilling their role? So can I go to Louisa first on this, please?
Hello. Actually, this is quite a pressing issue that we've already dealt with this year a lot of the time, because obviously as a rep you have to hold assemblies which usually coincide with the Better Union Forum, which is about a week up before, just to get the views. And I think it helps if, obviously, as Putes was saying earlier, to maximise the use of social media. What I did, I added, it sounds a bit stalkerish actually, but I went through the committee contact list and added everyone on Facebook, then added them all to a group and just said, right guys, these are assemblies, these dates, please make sure you turn up, because nice thing about this year was our dates were already set at the start of the year, so you already knew in advance. So, and I think, and massive part of it is make sure the reps build a good relationship with their society committee members. So as this year I've done that with my committees, I'd like to say, especially the ones who turn up. I'm quite nicely friends with them as well, so I think that always helps.
Thanks. Daniel?
One of the good things about the system that's already in place in terms of support and representation for activities is that it's very easy to feed down from the top to the bottom. So it feeds down from activities officer to the activities reps to the individual presidents and the committee members. One of the things I would suggest is, in that situation, is, as Louisa said, chasing that up as much as possible. If a president isn't turning up to run the society as a whole, it's probably one of the worst things that can happen to a club or society, to have their elected representative be either incapacitated or be unable to do, either unable or unwilling to do their job. One of the things I would want to do is use those channels to try and make sure that we can pick up the slack for the secretary and treasurer and everyone else on the committee, and make sure that, as Louisa said, using social media as a means of trying to get the president back on duty, as it were.
Thank you. Joshua?
I think when you become a club captain or a president of a society, part of your responsibility is to be part of this hierarchy of communicating with your activity rep and communicating with your activities officer. Now there's many ways in which we can do this, and as I mentioned previously, the utilising social media, which is so powerful, is a good way of getting your message out to the club captains and presidents. However, I also think that when you become in a position of responsibility, you're representing your club, and it should be compulsory. Now, sports society is very good, and it's reflected in your funding. Sports societies really need this funding, and if you don't turn up when you submit your development plans, this will be taken into account. So I think it does need to be strict. There needs to be that level of communication, but there also needs to be that outlet as well. That if you cannot attend these meetings, you do have the use of social media to be able to get in touch with not only your rep or your activities officer, but other presidents and club captains of the same group.
Ben?
Obviously been a lot of talk of social media, which I believe is a great medium to try and sort these kind of issues out. However, if I was elected, I'd like to take a bit more of a direct approach. Firstly, establishing a decent rapport with any of the representatives from any of the fields. And then from that, I'd like to establish the reasons why they're not turning up to these meetings and to their funding meetings and everything like that. Because we obviously don't know initially what the reasons could be. Once we do establish the reasons, then we can start to work out whether they feel they should be continuing their roles or whether their groups should decide democratically whether they should step down and somebody else should be elected and take that position. So that's my general idea, is that I'd much rather develop a rapport with the people, understand any of the issues they are having, and then from that we can address why they're not turning up, why they're not showing up, things like this, and then from there we can try and establish any sort of solution for the problems.
Tom?
Well, there is this hierarchy in place of, activities officer, reps, presidents, regular society members. I would tell societies you don't always have to adhere to that. So if a president isn't pulling their weight, I'd encourage other committee members or just general members of a society to contact me or the relevant rep so we can more directly address the issue. Because if the president's not doing their job but no one else in society is telling me about it, well, there's nothing I can do. So I would encourage as many people as possible to contact me whenever there are problems so I can get it fixed as soon as possible.
Nathan?
Well, I would improve the standards so that other members of the committee can provide the training, because it's not, if two out of three people are turning up, yet one's playing about, then if the other two can fill in the roles where it's sufficient, then it should be down to other members of the committee whether they want to keep this one person or not. So if members are having a problem, such as none of them are coming whatsoever, they should be able to go to either activities officer or their representative to tackle this problem. That way, whoever's running can actually address that person directly. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Alec?
I think without repeating ideas that have already been said, the main issue is just improving the communication. The hierarchy of how societies works is great for feeding information down from the reps down to members, but I think we can really improve how communication can go up the hierarchy as well, because obviously if a president isn't pulling their weight, that is a block in that system. And as the New Radicals sang, you only get what you give. I think it's important to make presidents realise that if they're not turning up to these to the meetings, they're not doing the role that they were elected to do, that their society isn't going to thrive. And I think if the members start to realise that that's where the blockage is, there needs to be better education for the actual society members of this hierarchy. Quite often there's no need for members to know what happens above their own committee, but if there was a greater knowledge of what reps do and what the activities officer does, then if they're having troubles with their own committee, they could come to the reps and just get communication flowing better to work out where these issues are and tackle them.
Thank you. Chris?
This is an issue that we have every year, actually. As new committees come in at the beginning of the year and get inducted, it's quite hard to get into the routine of coming along to your assembly. So I think it is just a simple communication error in that, I don't know, a good example would be the snow rider president, I hope he's listening, who turned up to his first assembly meeting, I think, last week. And whether that's just out of, considering themselves too busy to go along to something like that, but I don't know, I think it's kind of fundamentally in the best interest of a committee as a club to be there, as they're there to pass, as you say, to pass down from the hierarchy all the information that's going to benefit them as a club and get their voice heard in turn. I was going to say, massive mind blank there. Yes, but this communication error, I think, is what needs to be addressed. And I think if we can make that the way in which we communicate what needs to be said in assemblies in a more efficient way, it'll encourage people to come along more. It won't feel like, I have to be in the union until 6 o'clock at night, when I could be home eating dinner and watching, I don't know, what do people watch these days? I haven't watched TV in ages. Things like that. So.
Yeah. Ed Elliott?
So I think this is a great question because it's a very unfortunate but a very realistic situation. So my first line of response would be encouragement towards the committee. There's a great set of networks up at the moment with reps and networks to make sure that everyone's able to be contacted. And I definitely utilise that, try and identify what's going wrong. My second thing would be, if encouragement didn't work, and trying to work out why a president, a treasurer, secretary isn't attending things, it would be identifying the needs of society as a whole, not just that one person. So seeing whether change needs to be brought about, whether another election needs to be done, whether someone's been appointed who shouldn't have been appointed, and whether supporting the rest of the committee is important now, because I've seen it before in a lot of committees that I've worked with down on the other side of campus, where committees presidents have lost it a little and I don't really know what they're doing, and treasurers and things like that have had to pick up the slack, which is fantastic. And I think making sure that you support the rest of the committee and what they're doing would be the second line. So that's it. Thanks.
Edward?
First off, I think there are two categories for this. One would be where a committee member can't fulfil their role due to illness or something along those lines, family bereavement, and another where obviously they're just not pulling their weight. In the case of family bereavement or illness, it's happened on one of the committees I've sat on this year, and I believe in that case the committees are normally more than happy to take on extra duties, and it doesn't normally have to come up as far as, and won't normally come up as far as the activities exec officer. Normally, in that case, you'd go to your development coordinator or your activities rep to help sort out things like that. In the case of a committee member not pulling their weight intentionally, first off, I'd hope it wouldn't happen. Second off would be, I would hope that the committees would take it to their rep and then to their devcos. Being honest, I think going straight to the exec with that one is a bit over the top. So,
thank you very much. This is an issue that's been raised on Twitter and prior to the debate, and I'm going to come to Joshua first on this. Should sports initiation be banned?
Hot topic. Right, okay. This is an issue which the relationship, especially the way that sports societies conduct themselves socially, and the relationship that they have with the union is incredibly important. Now, I think the most important thing is communication. When I arrived at this university, the communication between the hockey club and the communication between the activities and the union was very poor, and we worked incredibly hard to build this relationship up. Now, the first thing is communication. The second thing in which you do is, I think there are certain traditions within sports clubs which will, no matter what you say, they will not become, they will not stop. It's part of a rich tradition that sports societies have. However, the use of peer pressure, the use of intoxication for initiations is something which I am strongly against, and it's something in which you can still keep these traditions without having this peer pressure and also having this intoxication. So my view on initiations as such, and my view of these traditions, is we don't outlaw them, but we put strict rules and implements in them so that new students coming to the club are not being deterred.
Thank you. Alec?
Yeah, when I was answering this on the Vote Match website, I sort of realised that any activity, any part of a society, whether it be initiation or actually what society does, can be dangerous if led with idiocy. I think as long as, like Josh has said, traditions are very important. And if you actually look at what initiations are meant to do, they are meant to welcome, they're meant with fun. It's the idea of sort of, we already know this initiation, you don't. In doing it, you form part of the society. I think it would be a real shame if that was lost. But as Josh has already said, if it becomes dangerous, then we've got a major problem. But I think any sort of banning or stricter rules on it need to be very clear for whoever runs the society, because if there's too much leniency, then everything's going to get out of control.
Thank you. Edward?
So in my first and second years, I was a member of men's hockey, and I did undertake, I suppose, what is known as an initiation. A lot of drinking involved, as you'd expect, running around Hyde Park and then finishing off and going home, getting changed and showered. At the time, I absolutely hated it, but now I look back on it actually with quite fond memories. It's quite weird. And to the guys that I was initiated with, I still call a lot of them friends. So I do believe they are a good part, good's probably not the right word there, but a strong part of the university experience. And like both of my fellows have pointed out, with good communication, good common sense, these things are positive in the university experience.
Thank you. Ben?
Hello? Yep. My personal opinion on initiations is that they're an important part of any sports society's life. Obviously, they develop a lot of camaraderie between the members of the societies. So for that reason, I don't think the initiations in any way should be banned. Obviously, we're talking a lot about the restrictions and placing quite harsh restrictions on them in terms of the intoxication and any sort of peer pressure or embarrassment that is met. Whilst I agree with that, I do think the best way to go about it is just to make sure that these people that are running them understand the drawbacks of some of the things they're doing. Once we establish that, then I think you'll find that in time the initiations will start to lose those elements of embarrassment and peer pressure and things that people don't enjoy as much, and we'll be left with just the elements that literally support the camaraderie and the friendships that are supported later in university life.
Chris?
Yeah, I think most people are going to have a similar opinion on this one. I do. I agree with Josh. Actually, I think with a lot of the clubs, initiations are part of the strong tradition that's always been there in the club. I mean, I know in the rugby society, like that's always been there, and it's a strong bond that they develop, especially with new people coming into the team. Definitely should be a limit on what they're doing. I guess the easiest way to control this or to monitor it would be, and it's kind of in place at the minute already, is for the committee in charge of that society or club to submit like a list of events, which can then be like briefly looked at and reviewed, just to make sure that no one's sailing down a canal in a boat with a crate of beer, kind of thing. But I think I don't know. I think it's a strong part of clubs and societies, and I guess the only thing we need to worry about is how the outside of the public kind of view the union, as because clubs who are out on a night out or in town wearing things that have societies branding on them, things like that, and if they're seen to be doing something that's viewed maybe in a negative light, isn't really what we want to see within the union. But yeah, I think everyone's going to have a similar opinion on that one.
Ed Elliott?
I was social sec my second year for one of the mixed hockey clubs for the university, and it's 200 people, so this is quite a hot topic. But basically, I ultimately just think, no, they shouldn't be banned on the basis, and it's quite simple, is that they're going to happen whatever people say. And if it's banned by the union, then it's very simple. They're going to happen under a different name. They're going to be called welcome drinks and things like that. So it's just very simple. They shouldn't be banned. They should be allowed to happen on the basis that if they're allowed to happen, they can be moderated. People will know about them, and people will be able to moderate them. But them happening in secret and not being moderated. So just quite a simple answer. Thanks, guys.
Nathan?
This topic is really grey area. You can't have a definite answer without displeasing people. But in my opinion, sports initiation should be banned only based on the health and safety of the members that actually join the society. If anything that actually jeopardizes someone's safety or in their university career, because that's why we've actually come to university, to actually get somewhere, it shouldn't be around, to be honest. However, there are traditions that won't be broken, but there's not much we can do about it. Socials should be encouraged as much as possible, but with initiations, it may actually prevent people from coming back to the society, and actually, if you need members to get funding, that will actually harm you more than it will help you.
Thank you, Tom.
Sorry. I think this is part of like a general issue of how societies like represent themselves, how they are portrayed to the general student body. For example, which Josh could probably relate to, I played hockey a lot at school, but I was somewhat discouraged from joining the club when I came to uni because I heard a lot of stories about stuff they did, and the Leeds student would give stories about things that happened. I don't want to ban the actual activities that go on, because I don't want to be the sort of person who says you can't do that, you can't do that. But I would just encourage societies to be responsible in how they portray themselves, and also they should be considerate of, the members that they have. A lot of these initiation things involve a lot of drinking, and a lot of students don't drink, for cultural or other personal reasons. So those students should not be they should not feel left out as a result of this. Have these activities, but at the same time do it in a respectful way that portrays the society in a good light.
Louisa?
I really think it depends on what you define as initiation. From my experience, I'm part of the Jiu-Jitsu Society. My initiation for that, we have a event called Drink to a Dan each year, which is we have to drink through the different coloured drinks of the belts, and that's like sort of our initiation. We don't call it initiation, but that's what we do, and I feel like after that I was more accepted as a group, But the good thing about that was it was in a friendly environment where people were looking out for each other. It was all safe and people were having fun. But if your definition of initiation is something, like the horror story of what rugby club could do or to you or whatever, then I think it's very damaging to the student welfare, physically and emotionally, and it obviously should be banned. But personally, I think it is a ritual of acceptance that students need to go through to and it benefits their university experience. So I would propose possibly, like you did with instead of using motions, you said better union ideas. I think you should replace the word initiation with something a bit more friendly, just to give it a clean slate almost, and have stricter rules on what should be part of an initiation activity.
I think this question really highlights the role of the activities officer and the extent to which the activities officer should get involved in the individual events and socials that clubs and societies get up to. It's not for, I personally think, it's not for the activities officer to say, I don't want you to do socials like this, I don't want you to do this kind of meeting, I don't want you to do this kind of idea, beyond their responsibilities of health and safety and student welfare. I like everyone's been saying, I think it really depends on what kind of sport initiation is actually happening, because I'm going to be perfectly honest, up until now I never even heard of a sports initiation, so I don't really know what goes on. But I will say that I won't be seen to maintain a policy of boys will be boys. I think the activities officer has a responsibility to keep in check what clubs and societies are doing if that starts breaking bounds of students' welfare. I think it's really important. It just depends on what they're doing, but I think the activities officer should have a say in this if it's a really extreme case.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for this section, but I'd like to thank all candidates for the activities position. Up next is the Communications and Internal Affairs.
Hello. Hello and welcome back to the analysis section of the Leeds University Union question time. These were the activities officer, and this year we've got 10 candidates running for it. The competition is high. We've got some excellent ideas put forward by the candidates. We've got the ideas such as improving room bookings. We've also got plenty of experience in supporting the candidates. This year, to give you an example of some, we've got the president of MedSoc, president of Japanese Society, we've got the president of Skydiving Society, and a hockey club captain. With the recent reports coming from Twitter, we've received new alerts that he's been endorsed by the Cricket Society, Netball Society, and the Hockey Society. So as you can see, the competition is really intense for the activities officer. Normally, this is the most applied for position and the most competitive of all positions in our leadership race. Once again, if you'd like to post any comments and views, follow us on Twitter with #LeadLUU. And that's it for the activities officer. And up next, we've got the communications and internal affairs officer. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, can the candidates for communications and internal affairs please head over to that area there? Or to put it another way, can Lewis, Leanne, Michelle, Mark and Anthony please go over there, please? Thank you. If you are sticking around to see the Communications and Internal Affairs Officer election, please take your seat quickly, as we will be moving straight on to it. Of course you can. Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting a lot of people for this one. If I could ask you to take a seat rather than stand up at the back. It means that people who come late can stand up at the back.